Once there was a young girl, she was crying for her love. He'd left her when the bitter winds did blow. He left her with a promise, he left her with a song. He left her with a baby in her womb.
From the 1950s to 2000, about 150,000 women lost their children to adoption. I'm one of those women.
The bitter winds did blow.
I was 17 and found myself pregnant to my first boyfriend. I was reading a women's magazine and they said that Crown Street Hospital helps young women who are pregnant and unmarried. So I decided to travel from Melbourne to Sydney and go to Crown Street Hospital seeking help. Each time I saw the social worker, it seemed that she had more reasons of why it would be better for the baby if I signed adoption papers. But at that point I was still very adamant that I wanted to keep my baby. I applied for my records, my social records and my medical records, and here's what they said. Still keeping the baby, still definitely keeping the baby at this time. This is a treatment record on the day of her birth. Here it says BFA, which means baby for adoption, when I still hadn't made any agreements that I would actually sign adoption papers.
The babe was born in sorrow, the babe was born in fear. They treated the young girl with hate and scorn.
When I arrived at Crown Street Hospital, about to have my baby, I was shoved into a room and left there on my own with the pains building up. And then eventually when they came in and I must have been fully dilated, they were yelling at me to push. That was about the only time that they addressed me. Then finally I was able to push my child into the world, but right at that last moment of pushing, they held a pillow in front of my face the whole time that my baby was coming out, so I couldn't see what I'd given birth to, and I immediately thought there must be something really, really wrong.
They pushed her to give up the babe. They said she wasn't fit.
And I asked to see my baby and they said nothing, and they gave me some injection or other, and I don't remember another thing until I woke up in a totally different place. And I thought I was in a nightmare. I just couldn't understand what was going on or where I was. And it turned out I'd been moved to a totally different hospital just to make sure that there was no way I could sneak down and look at my baby. It was part of what Crown Street Hospital did in order to make sure that we didn't connect with our children. I had no one to talk to. I had no support. I had no one on my side. I'd just given birth to my baby, but I wasn't allowed to see my baby. And I felt as if I was drowning. And the only way I could save my baby was to do what they'd been telling me to do and sign the adoption papers, because I didn't want her to be treated the way I'd been treated, like a piece of rubbish on the slag heap of life. I wanted something better for her.
But I begged to hold my daughter in my arms.
When I realised that adoption was going to be the only option for my daughter, I imagined that it would lead to her walking off into the sunset to live happily ever after with her perfect parents. But when I finally found her in 1990, when she was 26, I discovered that she'd always felt abandoned. For the first 12 months of our reunion, it was like a honeymoon period where we were both obsessed with each other and we couldn't stop thinking about each other and communicating with each other. But soon all the issues of adoption reared their ugly heads for both of us, and I think we had such unrealistic expectations that the reunion fell apart. I think losing my daughter to adoption was probably the most traumatic event in my life, and being able to express myself via art and music about this issue is bringing it up for me to let go of in a way, but also to share and hopefully allow other people to tell their story. Because once you tell your story, it gives permission to others to tell theirs as well.
took my baby away from me, left me crying in misery. Said if I loved her I'd set her free, that I was selfish to think she belonged with me. Crown Street girls got a lot to say